What are the Beats headphones of your hobby? What makes you cringe to see others flexing? Cabalist tents are seen the same as Walmart tents in the eyes of avid outdoor enthusiasts. If you're learning to play a string instrument, like violin, or your kid is learning to play one, please, for the love of all that is holy, don't buy anything that's any color other than wood, unless you're spending a lot of money on a carbon fiber instrument, which is totally unnecessary for most players. You're probably buying a piece of junk. You'll think it looks cool, but it won't stay in tune. It will be difficult to play, and it won't sound good. Buy it to put on your wall as a decoration, but don't try to make music with it. Edit. 1. RIP my inbox. 2. Yes, guitars and ukuleles can be an exception. When I said like violin, I should have said violin, viola, cello, bass. 3. Clarification. Instruments that come in fun colors tend to be made of inferior materials and have inferior construction. Here is a good explanation on how to spot a VSO, or violin-shaped object. Yes, even instruments that look like wood can be a hunk of junk. Generally, if the price looks too good to be true, it is. 4. Your best bet when purchasing an instrument is to ask a music teacher first. They went to school to know about this, and if they're a good music teacher, they care about your success. They will point you in the right direction. If you're looking at instruments at a pawn shop, check the return policy. I have purchased pawn shop instruments and then taken them to my repair guide to check value versus repair costs, and returned a few. Occasionally the pawn shops will have a good one. Finally, if cost is a concern, as it is for most people, talk to your teacher about options. Many music stores offer rent-to-own programs. Many schools offer free or low-cost rentals on decent instruments for students. There are even scholarship programs and contests to purchase instruments for students that they can take with them when they graduate. 5. Others in this thread have mentioned brands to avoid. I won't do that because teachers have been sued into oblivion for doing so, and I'm a little paranoid, but you can read the rest of the thread. Edit 2. I will never tell a kid or their parents directly that they bought a piece of crap. I try really hard to prevent them from buying VSOs in the first place. But if a kid comes in with a purple violin and they're really excited about it, and I know that their parents had to work overtime before Christmas to get $100 to buy it, I'll usually rent them a school instrument because we can waive the rental fee for a kid who already owns an instrument. Then I'll say, why don't you keep that one at home so nobody is tempted to steal it? Because it looks really cool, you can use this instrument at school. It's my policy not to allow instruments that stand out on stage for contests, so they use school instruments for that too. Or, I'll explain that you can outgrow instrument quality, and I'll rent my really hard workers and good players a nice school instrument because you got so good that you need a better instrument. It avoids a lot of hurt feelings when kids and parents are proud of their VSO. Firefighter here. Any of those I fight what you fear type hero worship shirts are super cringe-worthy in our field. Fancy DSLR cameras they have no idea how to use. They spend thousands on full frame cameras and fancy lenses, but shoot JPEGs in auto mode that they print at the Target photo kiosk. I just got this sick Alienware gaming laptop for $2,200. Live Target fishing lures. Most fish strike a lure based on noise and movement, not the strikingly realistic details on your superior expensive fancy lure. These ducking shoes, it doesn't have to cost that much to look poor. I'm into archery, and when people new to the sport walk in with $125,000 compound bows they can't even shoot correctly, learn how to ride a bike before you ride backwards on a unicycle, if you know what I mean. Edit. I'm getting some replies about people interested in archery. I highly recommend checking out our archery. It's a pretty helpful community for beginners and they can answer most of your questions. Rosetta Stone. The most ineffective thing you can buy for several hundreds of dollars. You can learn more through free materials like Duolingo, Mango, or Memrise, or websites like Language Transfer or Say Something In. Want to pay a little more? italki, Busuu, Babbel. Not afraid to invest some money for big quality? Michelle Thomas. Edit. Dang. This picked up. I feel like I want to give one more important piece of advice. All language courses do have some merit, and overall, the best language course is whichever course you finish. Want to see me make a course for Uzbek? Join me at AskReddit. Languages in general, a language learning. I don't know if it is 100% the same, but shooting sleeves on guys while playing basketball. If you wear a sleeve, people are going to assume one of two things. 1. You are good, if you already look athletic. 2. You think you are good but aren't, and you are going to act douchy and get way too into it. And edit. You guys, of course there are exceptions. I don't need 40 comments about how you are one of them or about how ignorant I am. I am going to make an assumption and then I'm going to stop giving it after like 5 seconds. Addy interchangeable knitting needles. I'm a knitter, and I hear about these knitting needles constantly. I've seen them go anywhere from $130 to $200, and everyone is always insisting that they are far superior to other needle brands. I've been legitimately looked down on for using a cheaper brand of interchangeable knitting needles. I'm all for having preferences. Please, if you want or love your Addis, have a heyday. But my work isn't inferior to yours just because I knitted them on clovers or boys. =. Rubik's brand speed cubes. A regular Rubik's brand is pretty much the worst cube out there. Their speed cubes are a bit better, but they don't even hold a candle to a decent knockoff speed cube. Plus, I don't even think you can tension a Rubik's brand. Tensioning lets you adjust how tightly the cube lids are held in. Too loose and you might pop. Too tight and it'll be tough to turn quickly. Everyone has a different tension they like. I don't understand. I'm a data scientist, and cringe when people brag about needing hardcore machines to run big Excel spreadsheets. Learning a bit of statistical programming like R or how to query a local MySQL instance is orders of magnitude faster and overall better. If a spreadsheet is even slightly slow, it shouldn't be a spreadsheet. Edit. Since lots of people are asking, R is the most widely used open source statistical programming language. See R stats and R language. I recommend as an intro for learning. Python is also becoming very good for this type of stuff with the pandas matplotlib scikit-learn stack, though R remains more popular among statisticians. So you'll find more packages with newer methods. Datascience has some threads on what a data scientist is more generally. Razer keyboards give me the heebie-jeebies. Their products are expensive and plasticity. They're also usually laden in acid-colored LEDs and RGB everything. Also, maybe tell us what your hobby is if all you're going to do is give a brand name that we've never heard of. Edit. Yes, I know what Beats headphones are. Some useful context was also included through the use of the word headphones in the original comment. I was referring to some of the replies. Monster audio cables. You don't always get what you pay for. Patron tequila. I work at a large liquor store, and whenever someone acts like Patron is the good stuff, I shake my head. Patron is the Beats by Dre of tequila. Edit. Some of my favorites are Selection 1579 or the Cimbrerazal Blanco are two of my favorite silver tequilas. There are tons of great ones though. I use Orandainolitis for mixing. I love the Tapatio tequilas. The Cimbrerazal Anniversary Reposado is amazing. I don't hate Patron. It's clean. It's better than some other options. But there are lots of other things to try if you have the opportunity. Fashion watches. Or watches from brands that aren't known for their watches. Mont Blanc pens. They are rather good. I like mine. Though they don't come close to the quality of others, but there are far better for cheaper. They're the poster fountain pen though. Modern Holly motorcycles. Not into the hobby myself, but I've been raised and around enough of them to know that many motorcyclists have the same general acceptance that after the 80s, Holly generally became trash and became more focused on becoming a brand than a product. Anyone remember Skullcandy headphones, or was that just a UK thing? Edit. So this is getting a lot of attention with lots of mixed feedback. I'm talking about Skullcandy from about 10 years ago, and over here in the UK the headphones were quite pricey for a young teenager, particularly since the sound quality was never up to the price point and they broke in a light breeze. Warranty or not, this still sucks. People who have never owned a tarantula in their life getting the biggest, meanest, and fastest spiders because they look cool. Don't get a ducking tea. Blondie if your only spider experience is petting one at a kid's birthday party. Teacher here. Other teachers who wear teacher worship shirts with sayings such as, I teach. What's your superpower? Sorry honey, your it stinks too. Get over yourself. Edit. A word. Every other Imperial TIE pilot out there is going gaga over the TIE Defender. And yes, I get it. It's got heavy shielding and 6 forward fire weapons, 2 ion cannon and 4 laser. It's got good speed and radial velocity too. However, veteran pilots know that the TIE Avenger is, credit for credit, a better craft. Initially you think slower, weaker, fewer guns. But ease up on the specs a bit and you'll see why Mark Steele kept his Avenger even when the rest of his flight squadron upgraded to Defender. First, fixed cannon rarely decide victory in dogfights. Why? Because by the time you've closed to the 1.5 kilometers of effective range, you're already one full click within effective warhead range. The enemy will fire their warheads at you and you'll do the same back. Then jink and weave to try to avoid getting hit. Second, starfighter level shielding is a last ditch resort in dogfights. While a defender might take much longer to chip away than an Avenger with laser cannon, we've already established above that cannon rarely determines survivability in a dogfight. Warheads do. And take the simple, cheap advanced concussion missile and see how many it takes to punch through a defender's shields and its hull at once. That's right. 2. The same amount that it takes to kill an Avenger. Your foe will close with 2 ACMs and scramble to kill you at a distance where your extremely expensive shielding won't matter. Third, the Defender has 3 panels arranged around its cockpit in a trefoil array. Each panel is the same size as one of the TIE Avenger panels, and the Avenger has 2. This makes for a much larger cross-section, both frontal and lateral, and thus a more welcoming target for missile tracking and the occasional laser shot. Ultimately, starfighter engagements are no longer won by blasting your enemy with lasers or by taking more numerous hits than your enemy while surviving. The increasing use of beam weapons, especially tractor beams that slow a craft's turn rate, counteract pure speed and maneuverability. The common use of warheads eliminates the tactical benefit of expensive shielding. Pound for pound, the Avenger is a more worthy investment for the Imperial Navy. Although the superior Rebel starfighter performance at Yavin has shaken traditional Imperial war philosophy, it must not draw the Imperials into a spending trap, investing in diminishing returns in agility, speed, fixed cannon, and shielding. When these elements are becoming rapidly obsolete, I hear that Grand Admiral Thrawn is pursuing a separate philosophy in starfighter design, one that is built around tractor beams and warheads. Cooking. Oh man. So many of these. Cutting boards for starters. Too many people have tiny cutting boards. If you can't fit your knife diagonally, it's too small. And for the love of Gibbous, stop buying glass cutting boards. All you are doing is destroying your knife. Fancy salt. Get some normal kosher salt. You can spend $5 at a restaurant supply store and have enough for a year. Only owning non-stick pans. Non-stick has its place, but unless you're doing eggs or a really tender fish, you need stainless steel. Aluminum is okay, but you can't use it for acidic foods, and cast iron is amazing for so many things and really cheap. Cutco knives. They're not the worst, but you really shouldn't be proud of having them. A giant knife set. A real cook needs 3, maybe 4 knives, and that is including a bread knife that is just for, you guessed it, bread. Chef's knife, paring knife, fish knife, bread knife. If you are wondering, anything branded Food Network, some of their stuff is good, but it is all overpriced. Just like Beats. All I can think of right now. Edit. Jesus. I went to bed after an hour with 4 comments. Now I have people ming me for knife advice. I'll get to you soon. Fire clean lube. Essentially passing off vegetable oil as a cleaner lubrication for firearms. You can read about a bit of it here. Ghillie suits in airsoft. I know you want to look like a badass SEAL operator or something, but you're just going to overheat out there in the sun and you don't really ever have the opportunity to really use it for sniping. Just stick with BDUs like the rest of us and save yourself the money. Edit. Holy hell, this blew up overnight. Did not expect that at all. Yes, there are definitely some cases where a ghillie can work really well for someone in a game. Especially if they're someone who's been playing for a long time, knows the field, and most importantly, knows what they're doing with it. This was more directed as those people who show up to their very first game wanting to be an epic sniper but not understanding the limitations of their equipment and the ranges they're playing at. Secret rare ultra balls from the Pokemon TCG. Not that I have anything against Settlers of Catan, but it is kind of annoying when people say they're intense board gamers because they've played multiple rounds of Settlers, or because they have more than one expansion. I'm glad you're trying new games, man, but you're really not that intense. Edit. Seems like a good time to rep one of my faux subs are board games. Check them out to get started in other board games. Edit 2. Actually, you know what? Here are some great games you can try if you want to get into board games. Codenames. Fantastic party game. Everyone I've played with loves this game. Dominion. Great deck builder. Tons of strategy and growth. 7 Wonders. Interesting drafting mechanic that really makes you feel involved with everyone in the game. Battlestar Galactica. Lying. Traitors. Deceit and execution. What's not to love? Power Grid. Got any accountants? They'll love this math and optimization intensive game. Agricola. One of the best worker placement games in the genre. A true Euro game. This is going to sound stupid, but colored handcuffs. They are not insanely expensive, but we have had a huge fad of officers buying colored handcuffs, and I do security, and wearing like 3 or 4 or 8 pairs of handcuffs on one belt. It drives me ducking crazy. Wayne Goss brushes. First he tried making a big deal about makeup brushes being too expensive and wanting to do a quality line but at affordable rates. My ass $215 brush set is affordable. Better quality lines for less. And far superior for slightly more. Like Hakuhodo. Stance it. Usually nice cars sacrificed so the owner can crawl and scrape over speed bumps at an angle. Reddit is diverse as duck. Tavanities. They're not awful, but they're really overpriced, and their sales strategies are a pain in the ass. Oops, I poured too much in the bag. Is that alright? Honestly, Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Based on the obscene cost, they are incredibly underpowered and have always been quite behind the competition for technological improvements, and a lot of the riders are posers. I feel this very well matches beats. Overpriced, underperforming, and, most of the time, used by posers. I've gotten in fights before over Leon Paul fencing equipment. Outrageously expensive equipment that I have never found to be any better than much cheaper domestic vendors like Absolute Fencing. I mean, I've known plenty of incredible fencers with Leon Paul gear that suits them just fine. But if you go to a tournament and see some low skill maximum aggression jackass walking around like he owns the place, I can guarantee you he'll be decked out in Leon Paul. Graphic designer here. Almost any holistic or natural health shop uses Papyrus as their logo's font. What a terrible font. I play hockey. Tinted visors. If a guy has a tinted visor, don't plan on him coming off the ice for a shift change or passing the puck at all. Custom barrels bells on clarinets. They really aren't doing much different for you, other than looking visually striking. Edit. Since enough people are talking about this, any change your special barrel is giving you can equally be achieved by adjusting your embouchure and or technique. You're relying on a crutch. Kink. 50 Shades of Grey brand anything. It's all garbage from the $20 ruler to their itty pleather floggers. One can get any amount of great gear with the slightest Google for a fraction of the price. They are simply riding off the name of a horrid franchise that has public recognition. Guitar. Most lines 6 amps. They're not necessarily overpriced as they tend to have a lot of bells and whistles, but most of those bells and whistles suck asshole. Wide range of sounds, but they're all half rate. They lure in newbies who can't settle on a particular style of amp, so they sell them on the buttload of subpar features. That said, some of their nicer, more expensive hybrid amps can sound decent, but they're still gimmicky. Oh, and the ducking. Gibson robot guitar. What an overpriced gimmick that thing was. I feel this is a good thread to advertise our Buy It for Life. Games Workshop brushes or any synthetic brush for miniature painting. They are fine for base coats, but anything outside that and they just don't hold a point, so are useless. WNN Series 7 are amazing and really not that expensive. Personally for me though, even the other lesser brand sable brushes are just as useless. People always rate them as good as WNN but cheaper. Well, you are honestly talking literally £1 or £2 cheaper, and no, they aren't as good. The handle will be flimsy or light. There may be less actual hair, so the tip is too soft. Spend the extra quid and just get the actual best. Edit. WNN. Windsor and Newton. Size 1 FTW. I have 2 of every size up to size 4. The larger brushes actually hold a better point than the lower numbers. 1 is the sweet spot. It's rare I will use a low number really. I've started doing most of my work with size 2 now, actually just for convenience sake, as it holds a lot of paint. I'm not top level but have won a few Golden Demon finalist pins for models from my army. Models I wasn't painting to win an award from. So hopefully take this as good advice. Unfortunately for me, Beats headphones are the Beats headphones of my hobby job. I'm really tired of seeing people use them in their homes, on the streets, and most importantly, any studio setting. I get ridiculously infuriated by it. I'm getting angry just thinking about it right now. Edit. Guys, come on. I'm really not that angry about it. At the end of the day, use what makes you happy, what you like. For those people who said they got theirs for free, I can't argue with free. Edit number 2. People have asked me for alternatives, so here's my list for around the same price. Sennheiser HD 600, Sony MDR 7506, Klipsch, Reference on Ear, Audio Technica, ATH-AD 900X. Matco, Mac, and often even Snap-on tools. We, the real manufacturer, make their tools. We put it in a box we designed with their logo on it. We write their manuals. We warranty and fix the replacements. You're paying for marketing and for a guide to drive to your business. That is it. You can find the exact tools for on average 1, 2, 1, 3, the price. Edit. In most cases this applies to power, air, specialty, undercar kits, hydraulics, non-chrome hand tools, pliers, crimpers, brushes, and diagnostics tools. Hardline, outside many impact socket options, is largely made in-house by, for example, Williams and Armstrong. Boutique instrument effects pedals. You're paying extra for hand-wired equipment with unique paint jobs. A $500 Tuba Screamer knockoff is going to sound just like a $100 Tuba Screamer, but you get to brag to your friends that your 20th pedal on your board is a different shade of green. Ducking penny boards. I cringe at the sight of people considering themselves hardcore into longboarding but more grab a penny board and try to ride them downhill without any sort of protection. I knew a guy in college who had 7 different penny boards, 1 for every day of the week. Edit. Since there are posts asking for a solid alternative, there are tons of boards that beat the penny, but to echo the words of a majority of our longboarding, go for the land IH stingy, cheap, versatile, and outstanding quality all around. If that still doesn't fit your bill style, go for a customized street deck that does suit you. For table tennis players, I'm sure there are at least 11 of us. Tenergy. All of the Tenergy. Professional pilot here, and while not a hobby, it makes me cringe to see student pilots wearing 4-bar epaulets. I think you get the right to wear 4 bars as captain with thousands of hours of experience flying hundreds of people around. Not flying yourself around in a Cessna 172 there, Maverick. Free Pornhub is just as good as your fancy premium Pornhub. As a climber, I'm hard pressed to think of anything that would be the Beats headphones, especially related to not being worth the price. I do see a lot of people wearing La Sportiva solutions who won't even touch problems that would require such a shoe. To explain that further, if you're just getting into climbing, you don't need to buy one of the most expensive shoes on the market to make it up the wall. I would suggest getting a cheap pair that feels good for you. Climb the crap out of them. You're going to destroy them, and then buy that shoe again. Destroy it again, and then maybe you can start thinking about upgrades. This is because until you get some technique, you're not using the shoe properly and burning through the rubber too quickly. As a gearhead, Sparko or Piloty racing shoes for track days. I get that there are benefits to the shoes, but they're not really any better than your normal shoes. It just makes me think that here is a person I'll have to watch out for because they probably aren't as skilled as they think they are. I just noticed my two things are shoes. I do care about shoes a lot. And on that note, I think anyone who shrink wraps their Jordans is insane.